Hi, everyone. We would like to wish you all a very happy new year and welcome to Vision 2021 panel discussion hosted by Holistic Wellness U 2.0. 2020 was an unprecedented year to say the least. We all have suffered the consequences of it. Doctors, nurses, laboratories, scientists, and all the paramedical healthcare staff is still fighting the pandemic as we speak as the cases mount worldwide. In a study conducted by UNICEF, rapid assessment has amplified the voices of 8,400 adolescents and young people ranging from the age between 13 and 29 in 9 countries. 27 reported feeling anxiety and 15% depression in the last 7 days. 73% of them have felt the need to ask for mental and physical well being assistance, but despite all of that, only 40% didn't even ask for it. Today, we are here to dissect and understand the effects the pandemic has had on the public health, the physical and mental well being of the young people, and how to change and evolve to enable a healthier and safer 2021. We have with us three wonderful young medical professionals with diverse background here joining us today who will enable us to get a more holistic approach towards a wealthier and safer 2021. We also have a dedicated question and answer segment at the end of the discussion. So, everyone who is watching us right now, please feel free to keep dropping your questions, your suggestions through the chat box. So, now without further ado, I would like you to introduce to our three-star panel members. First up, we have Dr. Milisha Lal from California, USA. She got her MBBS medical degree from Bharati Vidyapeeth Medical College, Pune, India, and has co-written and published several clinical research papers in the European Journal of Biomedical and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and is currently pursuing her application for a specialization in internal medicine in the United States. Next, we have with us is Ms. Icha Bhan. She is currently a counselor and remedial educator for Glendale EduFund and Glendale International School, Cambridge. She's also a cognitive hypnotic life coach, NLP practitioner, and former Brighter Mind facilitator. Our final panelist with us is today Ms. Aruvi. She's a psychology graduate from Malaysia. She was crowned as a fellow of the Hesselbein Leadership Academy at University of Pittsburgh in 2019. Finding her passion for mental health and leadership, she initiated the world's first model UN conference dedicated to psychology and mental health. So with that, I would like to extend a heartily welcome to all of you here from the Holistic Wellness family. And thank you so much for taking out the time of your day to involve and indulge us in a much needed discussion.
Thank you, Soumya.
So I think we should just begin without further ado. I would like to start you by asking that what are the biggest healthcare challenges caused by the pandemic that you have personally been able to observe and notice globally? So I think Aruvi, would you like to begin our discussion? Yes.
Right. So hi everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's session. So when it comes to biggest healthcare challenges caused by the pandemic, I think when you talk about physical challenges, they are pretty visible. Like if someone is directly impacted by COVID-19, the symptoms can be very direct and you get the due care for your body, right? That's one part of it. And there's this other segment whereby we have aspects like loneliness, abuse, emotional burden, say children and adolescents who are missing out on opportunities that may be vital for their social development, and irregular sleeping patterns. So these things, or rather these aspects, really threw a curveball in our lifestyle. And solutions to these are not as straightforward. So for me, what I have noticed is that we do not have a vaccine for our mental health like we do for our physical health, which means you can't just inject something into you to automatically get rid of emotional burden, right? So the question is, how do you circumvent that? Which we will talk more as we go.
Right. Thank you. That indeed is true. I agree. And Icha, what do you, what are your thoughts?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Soumya. Um, so this question is really interesting because there are two aspects to it, right? So one is obviously the effect that the pandemic has had on youth and everybody in the world, um, which is like Aruvi said, there's a lot of obviously physical health. The your body and your mind are connected, right? So whatever happens to your mind, it affects your body. The same way, if there's a physical issue, it will affect your mental health as well. So a lot of I mean, since the pandemic has started, a lot of issues have been cropping up, like anxiety of coming into contact with it, or anxiety if somebody in your family or somebody has been tested positive for it, or um, it could even be just the fear of contacting it, or the fear of the unpredictable, who wherein we don't really know what is coming, or what we need to look out for, or how we can really take complete, like, very good care of ourselves. The other aspect of this question, the other side of this question that I want to talk about also, which is really important, is how the healthcare systems are dealing with these challenges, right? Because it's a given that we face these issues every day, but it's also, we tend to forget that the people who are fighting this from the on the through the front lines, they also get impacted, right? So hospitals are running out of beds, or therapy has sort of moved from a face-to-face situation to an online situation. Now, that shift in itself causes anxiety for the healthcare professionals. So we need to keep in mind that it's a challenge for everybody, no matter where they stand with regards to this pandemic. I will be talking more about this later, but these are my 2 cents.
Very relatable. And indeed, when you say it like that, it's even I could go back and reflect that there is indeed two sides to it. And lastly, Militia, what do you
All
want to
right.
say?
Hi, everyone. Wishing everyone a very happy and safe new year. So I am from Orange County, California, United States. And I would have to say the biggest challenge over here, from what I've observed and experienced myself, would definitely be just the lack of I would have to say that testing and more of the healthcare facilities that are available to each and every individual. I think in order to get tested, or in order to be able to go to the ER, you see that people are being turned away, or there's not enough ICU beds, and every single hospital or clinic is literally at its full capacity over here. And that's the hardest part, is where do you go? Who do you turn to? Who do you call? Even all the 1-800 hotline numbers, no one picks up. So that's the biggest challenge here, is just how to kind of get that organized. And that's very frustrating to, so many people over here because of COVID. A lot of people think, why wasn't, my state or my government, more prepared for this, or a little bit more prepared for this? Or why didn't they know this was coming, or numbers are rising, and that is the biggest challenge here, is from what my personal opinion is.
Agreed. Um, it has been indeed a trying time for everyone in their own ways.
Right.
So, yeah. So, for like, if I were to ask, like, all of you are from the different backgrounds in the medical area. So, what would you point out as the most alarming concern that you have seen among the youth people specifically? Aruvi, would you want to share that first? Aruvi, you are on mute.
Sorry. Yeah. So, like, what I have personally noticed is the factor of loneliness. right? It can range over different age groups. The way people face loneliness is different, right? So for those who have lost a loved one, their lifestyle may be changing, and this really takes a toll on you, especially if you do not have the right social support, right? So that's one part of it. The other part of it is people who are battling with mental health issues, with especially with families who may be, less supportive of their condition, which may cause them to further deteriorate, right? So the thing is, we knew these mental health problems were always there, but they are far much harder to ignore now. So when you are in a very unpredictable state, you don't know what you're thinking, you're confused, and the only thing that you can possibly do is to take ownership for yourself, your feelings, and your thoughts. It is never easy, but it could be as simple as whenever you have an intrusive thought, you ask yourself, what I am thinking now, how true is it, right? Is this thought helping me feel better? So talk yourself out of it, because you see, earlier when the pandemic first began, everyone was in a very unpredictable condition and everyone was like very panicky. But now it's kind of like subsided, and it has become like a norm in our lives. So we kind of know what to expect and more or less how our life is going to be. So I would say use this time, this year, to really understand yourself, your goals, your aspirations. Take some time to get in touch with your inner self. Do anything that makes you feel connected, and takes you on a path of redesigning your life for 2021. That's what I would say. Yeah. So just be the best companion for yourself during this point of time.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you for that. Millie, what are your thoughts on that?
So I was just thinking about, this past year, and so many people and so many friends of mine, they kind of fall into this, like Arui said, is in this falling of loneliness. And it's just, you're not able to, physically see your friends, extended families. You can't do your normal, you're getting used to a new normal. And that's the most challenging part. Elderly kind of get more frustrated at home because they're scared, but then they can't, go out, and they get frustrated. The whole home environment gets frustrated, and it kind of just builds and builds up. And that's where, with mental health, I think you just have to kind of have that more of a clear state of mind that, I can overcome this, and we're gonna do this together, and kind of be in sync with everyone. Because if you have everyone that in your household that is on different pages, and everyone's frustrated, and it's really hard to kind of be on the same page with everyone, it's really difficult. It adds to a more difficult time that you have to deal with. So I feel like that is the biggest concern, is just dealing with that loneliness, and you want to see your friends, you want to see your family outside of the home environment. You want to do the normal things, like go to the mall, and just kind of do whatever you do with friends. And unfortunately, we couldn't before, and it's easing up a little bit. But that's the biggest concern, is just kind of learning how to deal with this new normal. Like, even if you have to, go outside and see your friends at a 50-foot distance, it's okay. It's not forever. It's just we just have to overcome it together. And it's not, and the biggest thing, actually, even for me, was my biggest, initially, I would say, why me? Why is this happening to me? And and then I realized it's not just me, it's everybody. Everyone is affected. Everyone is going through the same thing. Everyone is feeling the same way. And it's not just you that feels horrible and sad and lonely, it's everybody. So I think that is realizing that we're all in this together, and is a very big part of that, is kind of overcoming that.
I couldn't have said it better. That is so true. We're kind of like being lonely together.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
Good.
like doing the Zoom calls and everything, it's great. And it's like, it gives you more of that interaction with your friends and your family. It's just not the same. And eventually it will get better. And until then, we just have to just
Hold
kind
on.
of keep on with the Zoom calls and the Zoom parties and all of that for right now.
Indeed. It's a, please go ahead.
All right. This is a really good question. Also, thank you, Millie and Aruvi, for shedding light on such important parts of the effects of the pandemic. Um, I think our generation in general, like we have so much, we've had a lot of access and to a lot of different things. If we had to kind of go somewhere, it was easy to do that. If we had to um, get something organized, it was easy to do that. You could, we're very independent as a generation, and I think COVID has sort of confined all of us to the four walls of our house or wherever it is that you're staying. Um, and to have to sort of to be forced to reduce that sort of independence, as I like to put it, independence, is very it's very challenging because it's almost like we're used to instant gratification. If we want something, we can go out and get it. If we need something, we can get it instantly. But that was curbed, right? Like we couldn't do the things that we wanted to when the lockdown initially happened, and it's still like that. It is settling down, as Millie said, but it's still there. um, so adjusting to this new normal is something that everyone, in a sense, we all feel the same thing, but we experience it in our own way, right? So for some, feeling lonely can be like, okay, I'm not able to meet my friends. For others, feeling lonely can be like, I feel like my family doesn't understand me because I'm just so different. One of the common issues that I personally came across was a lot of people are not in their homes with their families when uh, for their work. They've moved out, they've gone out, they're doing their own thing, and they're living on their own, right? So a lot of them had to come back, and after being away from their families for such a long time, so finding that balance within relationships after you've been away for such a long time was a challenge for a lot of people that I personally encountered. The other one that both of them have, I mean, both Millie and Arubi have so beautifully explained, is for individuals already facing a mental health issue, it is difficult for them to be confined like that, in an environment where, especially if the family is not really on the same page and they're not able to understand what exactly is going on, they feel like they're not able to talk to them, which again can be a very, very isolating feeling. Sorry about that. Um, with that comes anxiety and loneliness and not really understanding how to deal with it. And it brings a state of helplessness, which is something that one of the biggest problems. The other major thing, which weirdly enough I've encountered myself, is if a loved one contracts COVID, what do you do? It's it's a very, very scary feeling because you can't go near them, you can't, they don't have the energy to talk to you, and if somebody is in the hospital, that's it, you don't get news, you're not able to speak to them, you're not able to understand what's happening. And that feeling of being left in the dark it is extremely nerve-wracking. So that is that is a huge concern that is coming up, um, in terms of mental and physical health, obviously. So
That is true. That's yet another concern that, we I don't think so we spend enough time thinking about it. Like, the feeling of helplessness at times when you are able to, you would want to help somebody, but you just can't because of the new normal, as you guys said.
And I
So
like that. I like that point that she brought up, was that I didn't realize it at that time. But like you said, that a lot of people are not in their homes, they're not with their families, they're far away. And that also is a sense of a different type of loneliness, you know, not just being in the home and being with your family and being lonely, not being able to go out, but not being with them during the special holidays and these, you know, for such a long period of time. And that really kind of gets to someone too, you know, you just want to be in your comfort zone and you can't. And that's also a really good point that you brought up. So thanks for bringing that up. I appreciate that.
Exactly. So actually, my next question is surrounded by the new normal, as has been successfully highlighted by all three of you, because there's a lot of things that we are doing the way we would have never dreamt of, or a lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. Some of them are still adjusting, and some of them are like maybe, you know, going all haywire about it. And it's the new normal everywhere. And have we actually adjusted to it? You know, that's a concern. So the question would be, how do you think it has affected, especially the youth of India and worldwide, mentally as well as physically? Like, what are their internal sufferings if they are occurring just because of the new normal, and how to cope up with that too? So, Millie, if you want to start the conversation.
Oh, okay. With the youth, I would have to say the biggest concern I see over here again would be just not as much. You'll see it in older, you know, the older population or the generation, but more with the youth is that everyone kind of wants to go out. They want to go out to clubs and they want to go to bars and they want to go out to the parties. And that's the biggest challenge, is how do you kind of deal with that? You know, I mean, if you tell someone, hey, you can't go out for a month or two, that's fine. But how do you tell someone you can't go out for 10 months or, you know, up to a year, like we all have? And everyone's trying to find ways, they're trying to get, you know, tested and then meet up and trying to kind of make it work. So that's the biggest challenge I feel with the youth, is that is just trying to cope with having to deal with the younger generation issues that kind of come around that. And with that also comes, with the younger generation, you won't see as much, I mean, you will see as much compared to the older, is physical concerns, as, you know, I'm gaining weight at home, or I'm losing weight at home, or, you know, and these are all physical kind of hurdles, I guess you would say, is how do you deal with that? That's another, you know, it's so easy to say, oh, just kind of exercise in your room and that's okay for a little bit again. But how do you do that for a long time, a long period of time?
Indeed, that's true. I guess I am one of those people who have taken the excuse of not working out because
Yeah, I'm also guilty of that as well. And you tell yourself that, oh, I'm going to start eating healthy. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to start working out on Monday. And then it kind of just gets more and more and more extended. And then you feel so lethargic. You kind of feel a little demotivated. And that's where it kind of just adds as a domino effect. And that's the hardest part, is kind of overcoming that, because with that, you're going to see a lot of that kind of depression come out, where you just don't even want to, if someone gets out of bed at maybe, you know, 8 o'clock, they'll be like, oh, let me sleep in for one more hour. And it turns to 10 o'clock, 10:30, you know? So it just kind of, that's the hardest part, is like, how do you try to kind of break from that mold? And that's with the younger generation, I see that more than with the older generation. And luckily we have social media. Social media plays a very, very big part in this. I go on my phone on Instagram and on Facebook way more than I probably would have when I was going out all the time. So, and then you see things, right? And you see people doing things like exercising at home. So you think, oh, maybe I'll start doing that. And that also is plays a big role when it comes to our youth.
So, Millie, you have caught me red-handed.
Hello?
Aruvi, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. Right. So Millie, I think you brought up a very good point when you talk about like youths not being able to go out. They feel so confined within their own, homes. And this is
Right.
especially true for those like, I mean, when we talk about youth, I'm going to include children. Children living in like apartments, who love to play sport, like athletes. It's a really tough time for all of them. And there are some of us who are studying or maybe working in our young, as we are young adults, like the lack of separation between work and home, it has really or truly really made us forget, like, when do we start working? Okay, fine, we start working the whole day, and then when do we spend time with family? We're trying to merge everything together, and then we end up in a lot of stress, and due to that, I know our immunity drops, and we tend to have problems like you said, weight gain. We form irregular sleeping patterns, and it's a mess, right? And to speak for myself, I have personally become very lazy during the pandemic, I have to agree. But I think the shift happens like once you are aware of how these things are actually impacting you, then you have the space and the time and the motivation to quickly redesign it, right? So what I did was I compared my life before the pandemic, like what did I used to do, how did I go on with my work, and how many hours did I give for school or to play, or for work. So I gave myself the same amount of time without exploiting myself. So taking the time to draw a line between how many hours do you really have to work so that you can come back re-energized to perform better is something that we should be consciously aware about. I feel so. That is what I've tried. I wouldn't say I'm very successful, but I'm on the road to getting there. So yeah, that is just my opinion.
Thank you so much. And Icha, if you
Yeah. Thank you, Millie and Aruvi. Those are seriously like very relatable and very relevant points. Um, so I work for two schools. So I would want to shed light on the impact on school students. Um, we've actually the education field, like with therapy, has taken a hit, right? Because we're so used to the traditional way of teaching that uh, moving to an online or a virtual platform has proven to be quite the challenge. um, and in school, like during school, a child learns a lot more than just academics, right? They learn to develop their interpersonal skills and their social interaction skills. Like all of these things play a major role in who you how you sort of act, and it affects different parts of your personality eventually, right? In adulthood. um the major challenge for kids as of now, so soon to be youths as such, they they lack that physical touch, right? That the essence of social interaction. They're not getting a chance to talk to their friends. They're not getting a chance to go outside and play. They're not getting a chance to interact with the teachers and with their guides as such in school, which is proving to leave an impact on them. And it may not be as observable, but kids, I mean, at that age you miss that, it's a major part of your life growing up. So the hope is that eventually that they're able to sort of work on that and have that social touch back. um the other thing that I want to shed light on, as Arubi said, is the work-life balance. Because everything is now online, a lot of the challenges revolve around how fluid time has become. So when you go to, you know that you go to office and you have to work from this time to this time, right? So you know that, okay, that time you are dedicated to finishing off this amount of work. But now that things have shifted at home, the concept of work timings have become a little fluid. So they're like, okay, well, you're at home anyway, you might as well do it now and finish it off. And it just keeps stretching, and then the work just stretches. So it takes a toll on not just the students but the parents as well, and the teachers, because there's no balance, right? So they're not able to prioritize certain things, which becomes very difficult. Which obviously then will eventually lead to health issues like, headaches or pain in your eyes, or it'll affect you. So we need to sort of find a way to make this a little easier on not just the youth, but everybody who's dealing with this pandemic and everybody who's using technology to interact and to kind of make our way through this time. So this is something that is, I feel it's a concern.
Isha, I think you brought up a very good point about kids missing the social, development, right? And I think I've noticed that even among parents, some of them, even when the schools are like, half reopened, they are very hesitant to send their kids to school. They're like, what if, so I'd rather keep her at home, keep him at home. And that is like, I don't know, I just can't understand like why. I mean, I understand the fear, but to what limit does the fear really, is it really helping the child, or is it, causing further, I wouldn't say damage, but it's preventing the child from getting the healthy development that he's supposed to get? Is a question that you guys, especially parents, you guys should ponder upon during this time.
Absolutely. And the thing is, you're sort of stuck, right? You're stuck. Like, there's no way to go. So you're in a situation that you cannot control at all, and you just have to kind of make the best of it. But the truth is, every situation that comes to you, there are pros and cons. So it's just a matter of kind of balancing that out, which is why, of course, it's taking time for schools to open for this specific reason, and rightly so. But it is causing these impacts, and I've been noticing it at work, and it is an issue that that maybe is not discussed as much, but it's something that will leave an impact later.
Right, you are 100% true when you say that. So we all, and thanks to you all, especially, you have shed light on such important concepts and aspects the pandemic has given us. So now I would like to move forward towards the more remedial part of the discussion, and we would like to begin that with asking, what are the techniques that young people could use to mentally unwind within within the confines of their home or their dorms? And I would like to start with Aruvi.
Yeah. So I think it is very simple. It comes down to the basics. Like, for now, coronavirus has happened. You cannot do anything about it. So it's time you shift your focus from the coronavirus to your health. So instead of panicking about the virus in itself, it's time all of us pay attention to our well-being, right? And it's very simple. When you can take, time to wind down and disconnect from the news, eat healthy meals, develop a sleep routine. And some of you, like I personally practice relaxation techniques, the heartfulness relaxation techniques, which I think is going to be very crucial in 2021. And also like picking up hobbies that could help you feel better at times. It is as simple as that. So if you have registered for this event, or you're following the Holistic Wellness Facebook page, you will receive a handout about like some wellness tips and activities that you can do, whether you are staying alone, you're staying with friends or family. I hope this tool will become a little of an inspiration to kickstart your wellness in 2021. So keep an eye on that. But it really boils down to the basics. It's just that starting it is one thing, but maintaining it, keeping the motivation to go to continue doing it is where the challenge is. Yeah.
Indeed. Millie, would you like to go next, please?
Yes. So I feel like the biggest thing, as Aruvi so nicely pointed out, was kind of shifting that focus of, okay, this is what's happened in the world, and how do we deal with it, and how do we move forward? And I would say the biggest thing would be just kind of finding what best suits you. If you like music, maybe put the music on in your room and shut the door and, just dance or sing, or, if you work out in your room, maybe take that yoga mat and go outside and get a new change of environment and work out, in a different location, just to kind of give you that refreshing a different change, and because that's all we can do as of right now. And even with hobbies too, like kind of finding that a different hobby, some people like cooking, kind of kind of look into that a little bit more, and cook, with your family, or have these play games with your family, which you usually wouldn't do. You'd want to play games with your friends, so I feel like that is something that everyone has to kind of dig a little deeper in, sorry, and just kind of see what else can I do, what else do I like, how do I cope with this new way of trying to, keep myself entertained and not be bored, and just kind of, and be healthy at the same time, mentally and physically. It's so easy to say, oh yeah, I'm fine at home, but are you really okay? And even have that deep conversation with a friend on text message over different topics. And it doesn't have to be like, hey, I'm so bored, what are you doing? It can be different things that you're talking about. So that, I feel, is a shift in kind of moving forward with having to deal with this. I see, with me, I love music, and I feel like music is so healing. So whenever I feel stressed out, or I just need a little bit of like me time, close the door, put on music, blast it, so even if someone's knocking, you don't really hear, and just kind of dance. And it makes me feel happy, it makes me feel energetic, it really boosts my mood. So these are like small things where you wouldn't even realize to do, but you're in your home, you're safe, you're not kind of going out, but it's a different change. So that I feel is kind of just digging a little deeper and figuring out what suits you best, basically.
Indeed, that's true. Even all my playlists have been updated.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
and have gone to just being a foodie, now making something edible to eat. So yeah,
Right,
indeed, yes.
exactly. And even on social media, when you see everyone kind of doing this, food challenge, or you see everyone doing the new trend and you want to do it too, just do it, just at this point in time, when you think, oh, life is so short, and just kind of take in that moment, and if you want to do something, just do it, instead of thinking, should I do it, maybe I'll do it next week. If you want to bake that banana bread, just go out, get the ingredients, and just bake it. And that's where, and that goes for respective of everything. So yeah.
Yes. Icha, please give us your 2 cents.
Um, I love how relevant everything, like all the points are, and I'd like to touch upon a couple of the points that were mentioned. So I actually have a few things that you could do here. So a lot of the times when we're kind of like confined, and the as we've been saying so much that it causes stress and anxiety, there's a very small and short technique that you can do to release that, to kind of just bring your focus back into the present moment instead of on the thoughts that are running through your mind. um, and it's called the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. Super easy. You just need to find a comfortable place, in your house, in your room, wherever you are, and sit down, close your eyes, take a deep breath. Just focus on your breathing for like 30 seconds. Just get centered and open your eyes, right? So acknowledge 5 things that you can see around you, and stuff that, and focus on the things that you don't normally notice. So it could be the way that the sun is shining in your room, or it could be like the way the light is just shining at the back, or it could be a spot on the ceiling. It could be anything. So note down 5 things that you can see that you wouldn't normally notice in your surroundings. Acknowledge 4 things that you can touch around you, and maybe just you make a note of like how it feels on your skin, what are the sensations you're experiencing. um, Note down 3 things you can hear, and this could be, maybe like in India there's a lot of noise on the road, so I can constantly hear kids screaming and playing outside, so that's one thing. So just note down 2 3 things you can hear. 3 things, sorry, not 2 3. Acknowledge two things that you can smell. So I'm a huge fan of essential oils and diffusers and all of that stuff. So I usually keep that on in my room. So two things that you can smell around you, and acknowledge one thing that you can taste. Maybe you've had like a nice cup of coffee or something in the morning or in the afternoon, whenever, or some tea. You could, sort of focus on the sensations. What you're doing is you're engaging all your senses together into what is happening in this moment right now. So when we talk about shifting our focus, for in that moment, this is a good way to do it. Like, it's a very tangible way to say, okay, you know what, I'm moving my thought process from what's going on in my mind to what's happening in my environment. That's one technique you could do. The other thing I want to shed light on, which is so important, is finding a hobby. Like both Millie and Arubi have said, finding something that you enjoy doing is really like important in today's time, because you have time on your hands and you have the space that you're in. You just kind of need to channelize it and figure out what it is that really you like doing. So like Billy said, for her, music makes is healing. It's the same for me. I'm Music is very, very important in my life, and that's my hobby. So what it does is, when you start investing time in this, you get into a state of flow. When you do something that you really enjoy, you get into a state of flow. And that state is basically where you are completely absorbed in what you are doing, right? So if you're going through something, and if you not just that, or if you just have some time on your hands, you're so focused, you're so immersed in that activity that it takes you away from all the unpleasant things that you're feeling, and your focus and your concentration, your attention is on that one thing that gives you joy. So really, it's a very, very good it's a very good piece of advice to find something that you enjoy doing. um and the other really fun thing that I enjoy doing a lot, I would want to share it with you all, is finding a space in your house to make it your own, right? So I like to call it a sacred space. So you can, pick up one corner of your room, and you can put all the things that you like there, all the things that make you feel good. If you like, like plush pillows or something, you can have a chair with a pillow with a little side table. If you like reading, you can have a few books there. Just make that space yours and make it safe. Make it a space where you can come whenever you're feeling upset, whenever you're feeling sad, whenever you're feeling happy, and you want to like take some time to feel it and immerse yourself in that. So so the techniques are the 5 4 3 2 1 technique, finding a hobby, and creating your sacred space. These are things that can really help.
Well, thank you. Those are indeed such great tips, all right. Like, I have noted them down, especially the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. It's so simple, yet coming from you, I hope it will be very effective. That actually serves my next question that I was about to ask. Like, what are the advices that you guys would want to give to people, to do something within the confines of their home? And so, all have given such important tips for that. So I think so. Now we will move forward towards getting a more professional view on that same topic from all of you. Like, as healthcare professionals, what are the things that offices, schools, or universities could do to ensure the well-being of young people moving forward? Do you have any ideas for them? Like, how do we move on now? For that, Aruvi, would you want to start, please?
So I can speak on behalf of, say, universities. So we have like counseling centers in every university, in every school, right? So that can be made more accessible to students, to conduct virtual sessions for students and invite them to join. And counseling centers are not spaces for students or kids who have issues or have problems. It is for everybody. And that awareness should be spread across. And it has to be done, gradually. But the idea of just opening it up to all students, to have some sessions as they get to know each other. And this way, their social development kind of, well, they don't get the physical aspect of it, but at least they're connected virtually as they do things like if they meet with a counselor, they can do something like an art therapy, which is, will make them connect and will make them, creative in many ways. So like I said, the same things can still happen. It's just that you have to look for a way to circumvent around it. If it's not, say if you love gardening and you like to go to the lawn and do gardening, and now it's just a little bit more different that you have your own little pots at home and do it. So similar approach can be, emulated by these kind of offices or universities and schools. It's just my opinion on this. Yeah.
Indeed, that's true. Millie, we would love to hear from you too.
Yes. So I think the biggest thing moving forward with more of a professional aspect is kind of having that communication between staff and students, or faculty and your patients. And I think that's the biggest thing, is kind of just having that open line of communication to understand where how one feels, and to move forward with that. I believe in more of that preventative approach, preventative medicine. So preventative for anxiety, preventative for depression. Before you even get to that stage, what are ways that, and with that is, counseling and having more availability for people to go and seek that type of therapy or counseling or help, or even just being able to having the means to do that, I think is very, very important. And when people feel not isolated, but when people feel like they don't have that channel, that's where it gets a little bit more difficult to kind of combat these things. So I feel like communication is a very big aspect of that. And just kind of having someone kind of tell you these tips of how to move forward, or what do you do now, is a very, very it's critical, actually, as of right now.
Yes, thank you for that. Icha, please go ahead.
Thank you. So I can talk about it in terms of education. I think now that obviously things are not easy, right? I mean, in a sense, they're easier because we have access to a lot more with the internet and with technology, but it also makes things difficult, as we established earlier. So understanding that with this shift comes a sense of pressure. So when we're looking at, like, let's say schooling, right? There's a lot of pressure on kids and teachers, in fact, to get the syllabus finished, to be equipped with everything that you need to be equipped with to move on to the next grade. Um, but we also have to keep in mind that there's been a new education policy that serves virtual learning in a way, because we realize that with that we need to realize that we need to reduce the workload and maybe modify the curriculum a little bit, enough to make it easy for the kids to cope, instead of going with the approach that virtual schooling will be exactly the same as physical. We can do the same activities, we can teach them the same amount of things. That going with that notion will prove to be extremely challenging, not just for the kids, but also for the faculty and people taking the school ahead, people doing the knowledge transfer. The other thing I really want to point out is, when we go through something, right, like when we're experiencing, whether it is a physical thing or a mental health thing or whatever issue it is, because we have the internet at our fingertips, it's very easy to Google the symptoms and say that this is what I have. Please avoid doing that because the information on the internet, yes, is accurate to a certain extent, but it is also extremely general. If you are genuinely concerned about something that you are going through, please avoid Googling it because it will scare you, right? And something that you read, even though you may not have it, if you believe that you have it, you can manifest that. So please just, do it with a little bit of discretion. Consult a physician, consult a healthcare professional, talk to somebody who may know a counselor, right? If your friends are psychologists or doctors, go to them and seek some direction into what they need to do to get a better understanding. Um, and literally just be there for yourself. It's we're all in the middle of such a challenging time, and this situation is going to go down in like history books later. So it's a huge challenge globally, and just be there for yourself. Cut yourself some slack. It's okay if if you're not feeling yourself, or if you don't know how to feel. It's all right. It's very normal. um and yeah, this is what I need to say. Yeah. that's all.
Yeah, thank you so much for highlighting, the fact that even I'm guilty of going and Googling certain symptoms or something, and you might come up with a result that might just scare you. And it's also a little bit of mental game that you then start thinking, I might have this, and you just start building it for yourself. So thanks. I think so. People need to normalize it a lot more, to ask for certain helps like that than to just going on the generous ways if you do want to care for you. So really, thanks a lot for that question. In the same train of thought, I would like to ask you guys that what do you think about the effects of lockdown, like how successful or not it really, the outcome was, and more importantly, how would you suggest and advise people to transition from the stage of lockdown to coming into the new normal? For that, I would again ask Aruvi to please start a discussion.
Yeah. So I think just to go straight to the point, every tiny effort that you take for your well-being, it counts, all right? And many times you're trying to establish a new habit, it need not be big, right? So I've been inspired by this book by Dr. BJ Fogg, right? So he says 3 simple ways to establish a routine or a habit is that pick a habit, make it really tiny, and see where it naturally fits into your life, right? And if you do not feel motivated enough to start or maintain a habit, you can always do it with a friend, virtually, or a family member, because spending time with other people will also help you boost your confidence, right? And something that I have been doing for the past, I don't know, 2 3 months is that, so my friend and I, we kind of established a routine is that we meditate in the morning, followed by our respective exercise routines. And that 1 hour or so that we get to spend in the morning keeps us motivated like throughout the whole day. So the connection that I'm talking about, it need not be 24/7, but just a few minutes within the day will make you feel really motivated. And like I said, you can do the same activities that you did before the pandemic, but just in a different way. So call up a friend, paint together, instead of catching up for dinner outside, prepare dinner together at home, like what Millie said, with your family members. But if you're going outdoors, then take the necessary precautions. Yeah.
Thank you. Millie, what do you think about this in brief?
For the lockdown question, I think the lockdown was extremely necessary. I think it was very crucial. I think masks, again, was a very big aspect of this lockdown. A lot of people weren't on board with wearing masks or having to be told that they have to wear a mask every time they go out, every time they go to the grocery store, even when they want to be with different groups of people if they need to, or when they're in the work environment. I feel like that was hard for people to adjust to, because having to tell someone, hey, stay 6 feet of distance from someone at all times is hard, even when you go to the grocery store or you go to pick up something. So I feel like the lockdown was extremely crucial, and for people to understand that it's a way to kind of make everything make the numbers everywhere around the world at that point in time, making the numbers of COVID go down is extremely crucial. A lot of people think, okay, I was in my home for 5 days, I'm getting tired, I'm going to go out again. And that's not how it works. A lockdown means a lockdown. No one's telling you you're on house arrest. You can still go out, you can still take a walk. And that was the biggest thing around here, was people thought that their government or their official leaders of the state were telling them, hey, you can't go out of your house, you have to stay, you can't leave your house past 10 o'clock at night. And this was hard for people to understand. And a lot of people didn't want to wear the mask. They had such a big problem with it. So I still feel like understanding that like wearing a mask is so crucial, and it's so vital as of even till to date, as of right now. And that was another big lockdown hurdle, was just kind of realizing that just do the social distancing, wearing the mask, you're helping tenfold by doing that. If you're wearing a mask, someone else is wearing a mask, it makes a very, very big difference. And people don't realize that until they see somebody or they know someone that has either contracted the virus, or someone that they know has eventually gone into the hospital, or someone who's passed away from it. And that's when it kind of hits them that, oh my God, this is real. This is, this isn't just this isn't just a game. It's not someone trying to control me. So that's a very big thing. And kind of even when I think about, oh my gosh, one day I'm gonna have to not wear my mask anymore, that feels weird, because now that's become our normal. So just thinking about having to do that, it kind of gives me a little bit of uneasiness, thinking that, oh my gosh, I'm going to be around so many people one day again without wearing the mask. How am I going to do that? So just kind of mentally preparing is the easiest way or answer, I would say, to just kind of dealing with moving forward. That eventually in 2021 or 2022, whenever everything feels a little bit more safer in the world, where you don't have to do the social distancing and the wearing masks until then.
Thank you, Millie, for highlighting that it's bigger than us. It's more like a social responsibility as well, to an extent.
Right.
So with that, this is our last question, and Itcha, please conclude it.
So my points are in addition to what Millie and Aruvi have mentioned already. Um, I think like dealing with the lockdown is, oh my God, am I stuck?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. So obviously, like when the pandemic hit, the lockdown and everything happened, it was new. It takes us time to adjust to something new, it's different.
Itcha, I would,
I'm back.
yeah.
I'm sorry about that. So yes, as I was saying, the lockdown, getting used to it was new for us. We had to really understand how to adjust to it. Um, Whereas now that we've kind of understood, okay, well, this is how we have to do it, and this is how we're moving forward. Um, it's now become easier as such, but the way in which that we can deal with it, deal with the fact that, okay, you know what, this is going to end eventually, is by taking small steps, right? So um, things have sort of eased up a little bit, but it doesn't mean that it's finished. So having said that, take the precautions that you need to. If you feel like going out, go out for a little bit of time in an open space so that you're not confined. Make sure that you don't go out in groups, go out with a couple of people at the max. Just be careful. Take the precautions you need to move ahead. Um, yeah, that's what I would like to say for this.
Thank you. Thank you all for giving your such valuable insights on the topics that have concerned one and all, and we've all thought about it and have wondered about it. And thankfully, this time haven't, decided to go and Google about it, but have been here to listen from you all. So with that, I think we would like to move forward to our question and answer segment. A few questions have come from the audience for you guys. The question number one is, what are the practical ways one can tackle loneliness? For that, Millie, would you want to start?
What are practical ways that one can tackle loneliness? I would say when I'm thinking about being lonely, the practical ways would be, keep getting in touch with someone that you haven't talked to for a very long time. Maybe checking up with someone that you haven't, you haven't seen or heard from, and just say, hey, how's everything going? Just want to check up with you. How's everything? Are you okay? I miss you. Kind of letting people know how you feel about them, and kind of putting yourself out there. And I think everyone needs that at this time. Just that loneliness, everyone feels that to a certain extent right now. Or maybe even just giving a hug to your sibling, or giving a hug to your mom or dad, it really helps. Like, that physical contact helps. That mental kind of distance, I think, is really important to kind of fill that gap with tackling loneliness. Yeah, I would have to say, even just kind of keeping in touch with, just being silly, I think, it helps. It's such a hard question to kind of figure out how to tackle that loneliness. But if you just kind of figure out what makes you feel better, to me, it would be talking to my sister. So even though she's far away from me, I'll pick up the phone, I'll FaceTime her, or I'll call her, and it makes you feel like you're not so lonely in the world. Someone understands what you're going through, someone gets you. And even with a friend, or even with your partner, it makes a big difference.
Indeed. Thanks. Aruvi, please go ahead on this.
I think I would agree with Millie. Like what I said, connection is very important, but connection doesn't always happen the way we want it to sometimes. So what you can do is just be there for yourself. You can work with yourself a lot. You can pick up a new language, pick up a new course, redesign your routine, how you're gonna spend your day, your week. And apart from that, I would still come back to connection, because that is when you feel heard, it's a completely different ball game altogether. So don't feel hesitant to reach out to someone, your school friends, your college friends, anybody that you have come across with. Just say a hi, and see how the conversation turns out, and you will not regret it, is what I feel as well.
Thank you. That is true. I hope the people are listening and getting what they were looking for. It's due to shortage of time, I might have to ask you another question, because we are running low on the clock. So the question is, one person is working and living at the same place, but how do you suggest them to separate the two so it doesn't affect your sleep and mental health?
Okay. All right. So, please correct me if I've gone wrong. So, you're working and staying in the same place, right? So, which is causing a little bit of discomfort.
Yeah, so how do you suggest them to separate the two?
All right. So, you can, if you have a lack of space in the house, you can create, like I mentioned previously, you can create a space, like you have a sacred space, or a space where you can go to unwind. You can create a workspace. So, I'm in the same boat currently. I'm working and living in the same place. I'm working in my room, and I sleep in the same room. And I've just created this corner where I have all my work related stuff. I have, my books, I have a little table, I have a lamp, I have everything there for me, knowing that, okay, when I enter this corner, this is my work time. So every time I go and watch a movie, or if I'm, doing some other things on the side, I don't sit on my table. I sit on my bed or the couch to get away from that space. Um, the other thing I would suggest is every now and then, if you're working for long hours, maybe get up when you have like 5, 7 minutes on you, go take a walk around the house or one round around your house. Get some air. That's important because a change in environment is crucial. It can get very tedious to do the same in one place. So create your space, and every now and then take a break, go out, maybe have some tea, or have some water, something like that.
Indeed. Thank you so much. And the last question, because it's very important, it is how to deal with global bad news that we all. How do we lift our spirits? Aruvi, would you want to please?
Global
Hello?
bad news.
Yeah.
I would say, I would give a very brutally honest answer. Just if you can disconnect from the news from time to time, because there are some things that you need to know. Maybe you just read the headlines, but if you get so stuck up on the news and all it tells you is how bad the situation is out there, not how good the situation is. So you will be, you'll end up becoming like what Icha said. You go and Google up things. The slight symptom that you get, you tend to become a hypochondriac. So if you can try and filter what information you receive, check with yourself, check with your friends, your health professionals. Is this really true? Is this something that I should be worried about? Or should I panic over this or should I not? So really draw that I will come back to conscious awareness of what you uh, wish to ingest into you. I think that's very important. You have the choice. So you get the choice whether you want to look at the silver lining of things or you want to get bogged down by, the dark side of it. So yeah, that's
Yeah. That is an honest answer, and I think we all will require to introspect that into us also a little bit to figure that out for everyone. And Millie and Icha, if you both also have anything to add on to it, then we'll move forward. Millie, please.
Oh, okay. I think Aruvi made an excellent point, was just trying to disconnect. I mean, I feel like there's so much more bad news than there is good news that you're, seeing on a daily basis, and you're seeing all these things and they can get to you. So I feel trying to disconnect would be kind of seeing the positivity in even not such bad news, but trying to find trying to kind of find that positive thought process of saying, okay, this is what's going on. How does this benefit me? Or how does it not benefit me? Or how do I kind of adjust myself to this if it affects you in that way? And just kind of disconnecting, like Aruvi so brilliantly mentioned, is the easiest way. Sometimes maybe don't look at that notification, or shut the TV off for a little bit. No, I'm not saying don't look at it completely. I'm just saying, maybe instead of watching the news, for a whole hour, maybe keep it to 20 minutes, or just kind of to where you know what's going on. You don't want to disconnect from the world itself, but you're not letting it get to you so much, because all you're going to think at that point is, oh my gosh, the world is horrible and I feel horrible, and this is what's going to happen in the future, and that's not good for anyone at this point in time right now.
Yes, that's there. Icha, please, you would like to conclude?
So disconnection from that is important. There are a lot of ways to sort of go around this, right? So I myself have been a victim of this. I myself have felt I don't know what to do. I can't deal with so much bad news anymore. Like I feel I'm immune to it. And there comes a point where so you can follow probably instead of watching the news on the TV, because I mean I can speak for India, the news channels here can really affect you, right? So instead of that, we have technology at our beck and call. You can download a few apps that give you short notifications or short news articles as to what is actually going on. Please make sure to look at reliable sources and not something that's just going to keep saying the same thing again and again. The other thing I would suggest is, if you're the kind of person who needs to look at the news for some time, or is surrounded by all the things that are going wrong, maybe find you can use social media for this as well. So you can follow pages that make you happy. You can literally just go type in the keyword and you will get like a lot of different pages. Explore. There are so many people out there who are trying to give out positive messages and who are trying to put out good content to the world, you know, because they're experiencing the same thing. So it's and it's a joy. Find things that you like watching. So recently I've been really interested in watching the Red Table Talks, because which is something that Will Smith and Jada Smith, his wife, does. And it's such a beautiful concept. I mean, when you look at it, there's such a difference because there's a lot of learning that comes out of it if you're that kind of person. So you can follow the news, absolutely, I mean, to a certain extent, but also find pages and groups that create a sense of joy within you and kind of motivates you to understand what's happening. So that's what I would want to say with this.
Thank you for putting in such an understandable and relatable manner. You are indeed true. We have the choice, as Aruvi has highlighted. So thank you all for your amazing questions. And sorry if we couldn't answer all of them due to the shortage of time. But please email us or message us, and we can get back to you at a later time. Now, I would like to ask all three of our panel members that about their any final advice or any insight that you would like to share with our audiences that are watching you right now. Aruvi, please.
I think it's just very simple. Getting creative is part of the new norm for 2021, and relax, breathe. We'll get over it together. And as a mental health advocate, I would say that every time we talk about COVID-19, we should talk about mental health. That's all.
Thank you. Short and crisp. Millie, please give us your thoughts on this.
Yes. So my final thoughts would be just kind of staying positive. I think that is so important. And I feel like being healthy, not only, trying to not get COVID-19 or trying to, figure out how to, tackle COVID-19. I think just being healthy on the daily basis, taking vitamins like zinc to help your anxiety, or if you're having trouble sleeping, taking melatonin, or even vitamin C to help boost your immunity. Take, vitamin D, things like this. If you don't get enough time in the sun and you just kind of need you taking a multivitamin, I think healthy body equals to healthy mind. And I think that's so important to connect both of the two. And, just getting enough sleep. These are basic things that we kind of don't overlook sometimes. And we don't realize that sometimes we need that extra hour. So of sleep, or just eating breakfast in the morning to boost your energy. So I think that it just being positive and kind of taking care of yourself from inside and out is very, very important.
Thank you so much for that. Now, Icha, please go ahead.
Just one final thought. These times are really challenging and they're difficult. But the in a weird way, the beauty of these difficult times is it like nature kind of brings us to a situation where we have to innovate, and as Arovi said, we have to create. So don't be afraid of being in uncomfortable situations, because it's what will eventually give you it is what will give you inspiration as to how to deal with it in a different way, you know. So cut yourself some slack. uh, just be, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable or be in the middle of discomfort, because that's when you, once you accept that, that's when you're able to create beautiful ways to move ahead. So be there for yourself is all I'll say. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you again, all three of you. On the behalf of Team Holistic Wellness, I would like to thank our panelists for joining us live today and taking time out from your busy schedule. And thanks even more to just sharing such valuable guidance and insights with us. I'm sure our audience has learned so much today. It is time to rebuild, recover, and stay resilient. And the future is hopeful. And us young folks have a massive role to play in the renewing of the society and to help secure our future as a global community. Thank you all for joining today. We would love to welcome you all for joining our Holistic Wellness family through our various social media platforms. You can connect with us by using the U 2.0 Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube channel, as well as our Holistic Wellness page on Facebook for more updates on health and wellness. Have a wonderful day ahead. Stay safe, stay healthy, and thank you once again.